Teachers of Reddit, what is your "this student is so dumb it's scary" story? Part 1. Please like and subscribe to support this channel. I was a camp counselor who had to teach kids in a supplemental capacity with the director of whatever activity our group might be doing on any given day. I will never forget David, my own Kevin. David came from a religious family. David's father was not religious, but David's mother, who had custody, was born again. His father made the compromise that he can be homeschooled, but has to go to a non-religious camp during the summer. I met his mother on the first day with other parents, and she was so happy that I, a good white Catholic boy, would be his counselor. What she didn't know was I was really just a polite atheist that put on an act in front of her so she wouldn't be a pain in the ass like she was to other counselors before coming into my group, 7th, 8th grade ages, and let her kid have some fun. David was dumb. I blame the mother, but here are some gems. David thought goats were cows and tried to milk a male goat. Goat kicked David. David believes that dinosaurs are not real. Like, they never existed. Not that humans walked alongside them, but like dinosaurs were never a thing. Kids made fun of him and he punched the paleontologist guest. Said God wanted him to do it when we called his mom. David ate rubber cement because he liked how it made him feel when he smelled the bottle and thought eating it would make him feel the same way but faster. David tried to escape camp in one of the foot pedal boats that were on the secluded lake, but gave up after he didn't know which way would get him to his house. David knows how to swim, but chooses to almost drown holding his breath to swim underwater because he doesn't like slapping the water when above it. Also, when doing the above water swim, inhales water accidentally all the time, which causes him to cry because it burns. David seems to believe that somewhere in the camp is a tetherball setup that can support his weight and won't slam him into the pole when he tries to swing on it, causing him to hurt himself despite the camp having many rope swings. David thinks all colorful plants are edible. David believes that all the girls he likes are his girlfriend. He gets mad when they aren't on his team for games. He will climb the backstop on the field and threaten to jump if the teams aren't changed. We change the teams and he's too scared to climb down. Kids play anyway while he cries on top of the backstop. One day David discovered internet pornography. He tried to share this discovery with his many girlfriends. David told a camper with dark skin that God left him in the oven longer. I tried to explain to him that the joke is insensitive, but this wasn't meant as a racist joke. He really believed that we were all made of clay and put in some heaven oven. David can't cut his own food. At first I thought it was a won't and had his mom do it all the time, but no, he sliced his fingers, yes, plural, using a plastic knife. David asked me if I had an extra PP diaper. Okay, I know he's toilet trained, so I asked what that is. Apparently he uses his mom's pads to catch the extra drops so it doesn't get on his underwear. That one was kinda not that dumb, but like WTF. David makes up stories about how far he gets with his girlfriends who aren't his girlfriend. To prove he got some, he showed campers a pair of women's underwear that was clearly his mom's, as she is a rather large woman and the girl he claimed to have gotten with could have used it as a blanket. David tries to hit people with the ball when playing tennis. Nobody wants to play with him, so he plays tennis with the wall until we're done and always hurts himself. David built a teepee out of decent-sized wood, but it collapsed on him when he hit a piece of the wood structure he built trying to make a fire in it by rubbing 2 sticks like he saw in a movie. Lots of scrapes but nothing broken but his pride. David, as per his mom's instructions, is not allowed to have rubber bands. She made me promise her and acted as serious as someone saying he's not allowed to have a gun. David thinks if he throws a rock high and hard enough, God can catch it. Proof of this is if after throwing it you don't hear or see it land, God caught it. He told me he does it all the time in his backyard. He was dumb but not really mean. Just an asshole most of the time. I truly blame the parents. I'm not a teacher, this was in my 11th grade world history class. We were going over WW2 at the time, when this girl raised her hand and asked completely serious, "Wait, England isn't a state in the US?" The teacher just looked at her in shock while the rest of the class burst into laughter. I am sure she was serious because she got really embarrassed, and after class 1 heard her ask her friends at lunch if they knew about England. They also started laughing at her too. I'm a flight instructor. Had a student who really wasn't cut out for flying. Before each lesson his job was to do a pre-flight on the airplane and make sure everything was working. One of the items you check during the pre-flight are the flaps. Basically, they are a flap of metal that extends from the aft section of the wing and drops down into the airstream during landings. Well, we fly a Cessna 172 where the wings are on top of the cockpit, above the pilot, and the flaps are situated just behind the door. Without fail, this guy opens the door, moves the switch to deploy the flaps, and turns around to run face first into the flaps he just lowered. It's funny the first, concerning the second time, and expected after the 10th time. Every single lesson. Okay, so I used to be a teacher, and then I went into teacher education. So I supervised student teachers in the field, meaning I'd go out and observe them teaching their classes. As an observer, one's job is only to observe, not to offer comments during the observation, so you literally say nothing. It was a 5th grade social studies class and they were discussing Ben Franklin. One student asked, what number president was he? And the teacher was like, I don't know. Followed by like a 10 to 15 minute debate in the class and with the teacher about which number president he was. Sad face. Obviously the 5th graders aren't so dumb it's scary. But thank goodness the student teacher finally decided to use the Google to answer their question. I've had kids turn in papers that were clearly plagiarized, but one kid didn't bother to change the font color on his paper. It was a pretty clear case. I had another who was supposed to be researching a technological innovation, the history and impacts of it. One kid chose the telephone. His paper was not only obviously plagiarized, but it was literally an ad for telephones. The kid had clearly not even bothered to do anything other than just go to telephones. And copy and paste. But my all-time favorite is the kid who stopped me and said, is Chicago a city or a country? I told him it was a city. He considered that for a minute and then said, wait, then what's a state? I had a little boy, 1st grade, who always got 14 as his answer to every problem no matter what. On the 2nd day of school I sat down to do 3 plus 2 with him using counters. We set out a pile of 3 and a pile of 2. I told him to count and watched in horror as he pushed the counters into a line and then counted back and forth, recounting them until he got to 14. That was the biggest number he knew. He would have just kept going on. I volunteered to do the book fair for my old middle school. My mom was the assistant librarian. I had a 7th grader come up to purchase a poster of a car. The price was $3. He pulled out 2 $1 bills and set it on the desk in front of me. He then pulled out a handful of change and set it on the table. He asked, is this enough? I said, well, you need $1 more. He then picked out 2 quarters and 2 dimes. Now? He asked. I said, that's 70 cents, you need 30 more. He picked out 3 nickels and added them to the pile. There you go, he said. I then proceeded to ask him what he thought the denominations for each coin were, and he legit did not know. I had to give him a quick lesson in the value of each coin and helped him count out $1 in change. To me, this situation is ridiculous. We will all have to deal with money throughout our lives. You have to learn to know the value of each coin and know how to add money. Back when I was teaching high school, I was giving an exam to my first-year students and one of them stole the key to the exam the second-year students were taking. He was not subtle about it, either. The whole, fake a sneeze, go get tissue, pick up a large piece of paper and think your skinny teenage body can conceal it, angle. I should have said something, but the fact that I was so fed up with this sorta crap by that point is one of the reasons I quit teaching high school. Anyway, that's not what made it such a dumb decision. What made it dumb was when he bombed the exam. He tried to claim that I purposefully misgraded his exam because I hated him, and even got his mother in on it for a parent conference, which means his own mother was front and center for me when I pointed out how his answer form was a perfect match for a test he didn't take. Mom was not happy with him, to say the least, though for the icing on the cake? She did ask that I let him retake the real test, and since she honestly seemed to care a lot more than many of the parents I met, and since I did admittedly feel a little guilty for not trying to prevent it in the first place, not that I admitted to that part, as a compromise we let him come after school to retry at a penalty. And in the end, he freaking aced the test. He was normally a C student or so, and if he'd just done that the first time, the weight of the exam probably would have bumped him up low B. Aesop couldn't have turned it into a better, cheaters never prosper, fable. I work in student accommodation at a fairly large UK university, and Jesus Christ the things I've seen. Even if you don't count the things they do while drunk, you still end up being concerned for the future of humanity. Things I've seen students learn the hard way. Asterisk plastic bowls are not an adequate substitute for saucepans, and will melt if you put them on the hob. Likewise, you should take the polystyrene foam out from under your frozen pizza before you put it in the oven. Asterisk if your packet of sausages says, to oven cook, 15 to 20 minutes, that does not mean you can put it in the microwave for the same amount of time. You should also not go and have a nap after doing this, or you'll wake up to panicked flatmates and a corridor full of smoke. Asterisk to boil pasta, water is required. Again, panicked flatmates and corridor full of smoke. Asterisk most people know they shouldn't microwave metal. Some people still try to heat unopened cans in one. Asterisk if you forget your keys, call security. Don't try to climb in through the 10 inches by 12 inches bathroom window because you'll get stuck, and we'll need the fire brigade to come and rescue you. Asterisk dumping the contents of the kitchen bins over the warden's car is a bad idea at the best of times. It's worse if you are already facing disciplinary action for something else, which was actually quite minor, IIRC, and the warden already knows who you are. Doing this in front of a CCTV camera, in full view of a security patroller, while the warden watches you from his balcony, and then trying to blame someone else will not improve things. I probably got more, but I'll have to think of some that don't involve alcohol. We'll be here all day if I start typing those up. Asterisk edit because I've been reminded about something particularly stupid and you lot need to know. Asterisk the first uni building I worked in had 9 floors, and only 1 lift. We found the lift not working one evening, and went to go find out why. We found it stuck on the 8th floor, doors open, and not going anywhere. Why? 3 dudes had gotten an inflatable jacuzzi in there, filled it with water, and couldn't get it back out again. Apparently, they were so excited to try it out, they couldn't wait to go outside and started filling it in the kitchen. Then their flatmates got annoyed and told them to take it elsewhere, so they just dragged it into the lift to take it downstairs, but continued filling it. Eventually it exceeded the weight limit, and by that point was also too heavy to move. So the dudes just decided to plug it in, turn the bubbles on and sit there enjoying their new lift jacuzzi. We asked why they didn't just drain it, then take it outside. Well, they said, there's a plug hole in the bottom, but we don't want to pour all this water down the lift, we might get electrocuted. There doesn't seem to be another way to get the water out. How did you get the water in it in the first place? We asked. Oh, we used buckets, they said. Maximum facepalm. I was a former college recruiter who used to set up a booth at low-income schools to help guide first-generation students into college. Had a high school girl come up to me and tell me she wants to be a gynecologist. So I start talking about which schools have good pre-med programs, the kind of classes she would need to take, broaching the idea of med school. She says, hold up, a gynecologist as a doctor? I say yes. She says, well, I do not want to go to medical school. I just want a job where I can look at vaginas all day. We ended up talking about possibly cosmetology school or esthetician school. Also, she was not kidding. I got many dumb questions like this. When you don't know, you don't know. In my design class, I had this girl who had placed a garage beside the house, but couldn't, for the life of God, figure out why her 90 cm by 200 cm door was not appropriate for a car to enter through. Same girl planned a small space for children in a library. Said space was only 1.5 meters high, and no matter what the teacher said, she kept going back to, but this space is for children, they are not tall. But they will suffocate. But it is a space for children. Not from when I was teaching, but a buddy's classmate. HS class was discussing the number of stars in the galaxy. My buddy jokingly says 20. Kid next to him, notably not the sharpest kid I've known, goes, are you stupid? There's gotta be 100 of them. Maybe even 1,000. Serious as can be. Honestly not sure what's dumber, him thinking the guess of 20 was real. Or him thinking that 1,000 might be too high. I don't usually wear glasses when I teach. Except for one day. And it was subsequently a big deal among all my 5th graders. The next day, at the start of class, I noticed a girl in the front row wearing glasses for the first time. Something seemed a little off, so I finally decided to chime in. Emily, what's the deal with the glasses? These. I need them to see. But they don't have any lenses. She appeared befuddled and said, they don't, before lifting her finger up to one of the eye frames and poking herself in the eye. When I was student teaching, I had one who was just on the verge of passing, thanks to the incredible mercy of the primary teacher. All he needed to do was turn in a worksheet that he finished in class. I know that he finished it because I watched him and helped him do it. All he had to do was give it to the teacher. But, in his mind, that would mean that she had won. So he refused to turn it in. I left the school before the end of the semester, but I would bet money that he failed the class. Not a schoolteacher, but I've taught swim lessons in the past. I was once teaching the adult learn to swim class and had an incredibly dumb dude, let's call him Rusty, sign up. Rusty was a 100-pound guy with an absolute fear of water. He wouldn't even shower, but he decided that swimming lessons were gonna cure him. It was the first day, when we were just getting accustomed to the water and helping people with a phobia start to get over it. The first few people are puttering around in the shallow end, 1 meter deep, and getting a feel for the water. Some of them were immigrants from someplace very dry and had never been in a pool before, so it was quite the experience for them and things were getting loud. All of a sudden, I hear Rusty give his best bald eagle screech attempt, sprint down the deck, and launch himself into the deep end, 4 meters deep. He immediately starts drowning, no fat, no float, and is going down fast. My assistant, the lifeguard, got in, got him holding onto the rescue tube, and pushed him to the shallow end, still screaming and flailing. He hauled himself up the stairs and started sprinting for the deep end again and chucked himself back in. I went in after him since my assistant was still in the water and dragged him out again. He tried to do it a third time, but I was able to stop him until security showed up to hold him back for his own safety. I never saw him again after that day, but I'll never know why he, an aquaphobic non-swimmer, would think jumping in the deep end was a good idea. I'm a professor grading papers now and I have a few contenders right here. This one student blatantly plagiarized in his first paper. I mean just cutting and pasting from web pages. He didn't even streelform the primary sources and they weren't even scholarly web pages. I was so surprised at how badly he plagiarized, that I gave him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he didn't understand what it really was. I just gave him a 0 along with an email describing the issue in detail with some additional links for whole sites that do the FAQs really well. We met, and I explained it to him. He was abjectly apologetic and explained that he had missed the nuances before. Grading the final paper, same shit all over again. And I test this stuff using a free website I found just on Google and it takes like 2 minutes to check. What the fuck is he thinking? Also the non-plagiarized part, it's so poorly written I don't know how even got in, much less made it to be a junior at a selective school. The guy's is also pre-med, WTF?